and meta-analysis. So just a second, let me bring it to full screen. Just a second. This technique is very, very new. So if I say there is a research market, there are research techniques which whose FTPs you must have done. The most common research techniques going on nowadays is basic analysis on SPSS. Okay, that is a bivariate analysis on SPSS. There is an EFA. I'm talking only about statistical techniques because I understand that in econometrics and engineering, it is more of the statistical techniques that are important to you. So working on SPSS, which means the basic bivariate tests like chi-square, t-square, etc. Then there is an EFA, exploratory factor analysis. Then there's a CFA, confirmatory factor analysis through SEM, which is structural equational modeling. Also for especially for people of econometrics and finance, there is a technique called time series and panel data. So that is one domain that is really going on. And of course, there's a new PLSM, which is almost like a addition to SEM, an advancement to SEM. So that these are the quantitative techniques for which I think I've been seeing FTPs from the past some 5 months. Okay, now I from the past 5 months. Am I audible? Somebody's writing no audio. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
Okay. Now, systematic review and meta-analysis is a technique I've been taking FTPs from June. And in these 5 months, I've on an average have had some 2 to 3 FTPs per week, 3 to 5 days. Apart from that, I've gone to colleges and explained this process in a 2-hour session also. And it's new to you also. It's absolutely new. It's something that many people still don't know. But I suddenly see among Indian researchers and researchers abroad, there's a horde of people doing systematic review and meta-analysis. So why I started this technique, let me tell you. I wanted to write a paper. I was writing a paper on a technique called SEM. And suddenly I started seeing papers on something called an SLR, Systematic Literature Review. And also I started seeing papers on meta-analysis and SEM together. I mean, a research paper which has meta-analysis plus SEM. Now this troubled me. I said, yeah, my domain of social sciences, marketing, even the same in econometrics, by the way. So I said, how come there's a technique that I don't know? So I know SPSS, I know SEM, I know EFA, CFA, I know these techniques. We've been applying them in research papers, but this was a technique, statistical technique I didn't know. Time series and panel I don't know. But generally in my data, which is cross-sectional data. What is cross-sectional data? The data that you collect for a short period of time, do a research and finish off. So I don't study my consumer for a long period of time. So time series was not of very great concern to me. Chalta hai, nahi aata, doesn't matter. But systematic review and meta-analysis, and my God, the papers were like, 2019, 2020 papers. Now, this is what led me to start studying this topic in January 2020. It took me 5 months to research on this topic, and all this that I'm presenting since June is the hard work of that research. The reason being, all systematic review and meta-analysis YouTube videos which are available, that is the only source, So books are too difficult to understand because they are a very high level. The YouTube videos on systematic review and meta-analysis were only and only from the medical domain. So you take up a vaccine, you test it on a person. This is the heterogeneity. This is this thing. Cohen's D. is calculated, and I didn't know how can this be applied in social sciences. That is what I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand that there's something. There were research papers in social sciences, in econometrics, in finance, in HR, marketing. But when I went to the YouTube, it was all medical, vaccine. And that is the time when I started reading papers. And finally, now I have submitted about 2 meta-analysis papers already in 2 journals. Let's see how they fare. If I'm lucky enough, I should be having a paper by next year. Okay, let me introduce you to systematic review. Just a second. Yeah. So in a 5-day workshop that I take, an FTP that I take, this is what I cover. Of course, in one day I won't be able to cover that much, but basically I'll introduce you to the topic so that in case further you want to learn. There's an FTP I'm doing, a 5-day FTP starting from 23rd to 31st. So that's 5 days FTP, 23rd to 27th. So you can attend that. I'm going to touch upon the topic number 1, which is Introduction to Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. And I'm going to show you, if time permits, what is an effect size. Okay, so these are the 2 topics I'm going to do. What is systematic review? All of us are aware of a term called literature review. Okay, from ever since we studied research in our post-graduation, we were told that chapter number 2 is review of literature, or literature review, okay, or theoretical concept, whatever you name that chapter. Okay, what is systematic review? Systematic review collects all possible studies related to a given topic and design, and reviews and analyzes its results. I repeat, I do not collect 100, 200 studies and make a theoretical review out of it. No. I collect all the possible studies and I analyze their results. So what do we generally do when we have to write a review of literature? We pick up 3 authors from anywhere. Let's be frank. What do? We pick up 4 papers, pick up the major authors who have done a lot of work, who are very popular, put it in our paper and say, okay, review of literature is done. How many papers do you need for a research paper of review of literature? Primarily 5 to 10, that's it. But in a systematic review, you need at least 150 to 200 papers. That is the level of analysis we are going to go on. Mind you, this is a technique where we are going to go quantitative. We are going to do statistical analysis, but all the statistical analysis is going to be done only and only on secondary data. I repeat, we will collect data, we will analyze results, we will further go to a technique called meta-analysis where we do a statistical analysis, but each and everything that is going to be done over here is done on secondary data. This is a technique where I don't go to a sample. I don't go to a sample. I don't do primary data. I don't fill up questionnaires. It saves me the trauma of data collection. Data collection is a trauma. Data collection is a trauma. Reason being, I go to 500 people. It's happened to me in my past papers. Went to 500 people, and there was a SEM model. And then when I bring data, I don't get reliability. I don't get my EFAs right. I don't get my CFAs right. Then I again go back and collect data. So from 500, I make it 700. Then I get a few results. So data collection is really, going to the consumer, collecting data is very difficult. But here, what you're going to do, you're just going to take the past data, right? What sort of past data you will take, I'll just come to that. Okay, I'll just come to that. So systematic review is collecting all possible studies. Okay, what do you do after collection of the study? Now, this is a very famous example of mine, and it's been a hit. It's been a hit in most of my workshops. This is the way I explain what is systematic review or systematic literature review. Now, forget that you're into a statistical analysis FTP. Just forget. Anyways, I think the worst part to start your Saturday holiday would be to enter a workshop at 9:15 for a statistical analysis. That will be the worst thing. So let's put this simple. Let's say on a lovely Saturday morning that it is, you go and you want to probably own a polo team. Okay, so you want to own a polo team and you want horses for that polo team. So just for a minute, you can imagine that you're a very, very rich man. You have a huge farm. You have an inclination towards the game polo, and you want to buy horses for it, and you want to start playing polo with a team from say next week onwards. Now, I go to a seller of horses. I go to a seller of horses, and over there, I tell that person, okay, show me all your horses. Okay. And the seller tells me two narratives. The seller tells me two narratives. The seller starts selling his horses in two ways. Number one, see on the left side. The horse is brown in color. It is one of the finest breed in UK. He has won over 500 races, has a rocket bolt speed. This is what he explains to you as a seller. There's another seller who shows you some 25 horses. He shows you some 25 to 30 horses, and his statements are the ones on the right side. These horses have an estimated weighted average power of 0.5. These powers are true effects based on the number of races each horse has won. My question to you is, which statements tell you about which of the two that you see tells you about the power of the horse? Which of the two that are there on the PPT tell you the actual magnitude of the power of the horse? Which of the two, left or right?
Obviously left one, right? Left
Sorry,
one.
sir?
Obviously left one.
Right one. Why? Because it gives you, I'm just typing the word, oh, I don't know why this happened. Okay, so it gives you something that we call magnitude. It gives you a magnitude, it gives you a number. So now convert the horse into research papers. Now convert the horse into secondary data, secondary research papers, past research papers, and now understand the same problem. When we do a normal narrative review of literature that we generally do in our papers, what do we say? We say there is a relationship between attitude and intention. The relationship has been proven by Askin, 1978. Further, work has been done to further prove the relationship in the year 2002 by so and so. And further, a third person has given it a different angle, 2018. That's all we write. This is called narrative review. Okay. Something like the horse is brown in color and one of the finest breed. He has won these many races. These are the bolt. It has a rocket bolt speed. When we do a narrative review, we do it out of some 5 to 10 papers, and we don't have a magnitude attached to it. If this horse is a research paper, what is the magnitude of the effect of attitude over intention? Do I know that? Can I name it? No, I cannot name it. Can I count it? No, I cannot count it. But when I do a systematic review and meta-analysis, I get a number attached to the horse, which means I get a power attached to a study. So if these 25, 30 horses that you see get converted into 100 papers, okay, these are not horses, they are papers. So I get somewhere around 100 papers. I find out the power of each paper. Like here we are finding out the power of every horse, 0.5, 0.3, 0.8, 0.9. I find out the power of each horse, and then I find out the consolidated power of all 100 horses taken together. Okay. On what? On attitude versus intention, attitude and intention. So this is the difference between a narrative review and a systematic review. Let me now explain. This is the concept. Let me now explain the general difference theoretically. So what is a narrative review? A narrative review is a comprehensive review of literature topics which are associated with the thematic. So there's a theme, you describe it. That's it. You describe it in words, you describe it qualitatively, you describe it in text. What is systematic review? A systematic review is a clearly defined and formulated thing. It is systematic. And when I come to the end of this session, you'll see how technical it is vis-a-vis a normal narrative review. And in a systematic review, I have to clearly define my objectives. I have to clearly define my statistical parameters. I took 100 questions, 100 secondary data papers. From those secondary data papers, I got the power of this value, attitude impacts intention. I got the value from 100 papers, correlation value, suppose, and the consolidated correlation value of 100 papers is this. I have to go in a very clearly defined and formulated method. Okay. Previous protocol. What is a protocol? A protocol is a way of doing things, you know. So when I come from an army background where there's a protocol that you don't call on to someone's house after 2 p.m. You're not supposed to be visiting someone's house in afternoon times. There is also a protocol among defense people that after 5 you dress up and sit even at your home. So even if you're sitting at your home at somewhere around 5ish, you have to dress up and sit back home, because you expect people to be coming to your house post 5 or 6. And you can be dead sure because of the protocol that nobody's going to land to your house at somewhere around 2 in the afternoon. Protocol, a set of rules, a set of so there are protocols in airlines. So if there is a hijack, there's a protocol. The protocol is that you should inform the ATC, and the pilot should leave the plane. That's the protocol. They're not supposed to be waiting. So there's a protocol. Similarly, in literature review also, in systematic review also, we have a protocol. We have a method of doing things. I'll come to protocols that you follow in systematic review. But just imagine when you write a narrative review, there are no protocols. What protocol do you follow? What protocol do you follow to select 4 authors that you have that you've written about? There is no protocol. You take up a paper, pick up the most important authors, take up another paper, pick up the most important authors. This is what you do. So there is no set protocol. There is no set flow chart. There is no set method of doing things. Also, having said that, there is a lot of subjectivity and bias. So look at the last point, interpretation. So when we are selecting authors for a narrative review or a basic review that you see, we get easily biased by the subjectivity of the author. Let me give you an example. When I have to prove that attitude affects intention, I generally pick up the person who gave this concept, which was Aicte, 1978. I generally pick him up. There's a subjectivity. I am biased towards him because he's the founder. I am biased towards a few other authors like Dr. Sheeran, Dr. Belk. I'm biased towards them because I study sustainability, and these are the names of sustainability. So when you're doing a narrative review, you get biased towards a few authors. Okay, the same does not happen in a systematic review. Here you're not biased. Okay, you're not biased towards, you cannot be biased because we are going to do it in a very systematic way. There is no scope of manipulation in systematic review. Statistical analysis, there is no statistical analysis in a narrative review, but in a systematic review we do have statistical analysis, right? um, let's now go to the next. Okay, now this is what a typical systematic review is like. You can read it out. You can take you can take a minute and read it out, so that after you read it out, I'll start explaining what is not there in this and which is there in a systematic review. Just take a minute to read it. Now, narrative review. What is narrative review? In narrative review, I have picked up some authors. For example, to explain this particular study that I'm doing, I have picked up some authors. Who are the authors? Kabilan, 2010, McCarthy, 2013, Kirchner and Karpinski, 2010, Junko, 2012, and so on and so forth. Was there a basis for me to select these authors? No, it's subjective. I could have skipped McCarthy and put in another author by the name of Dash. I could have skipped Karpinski and put in another author, and as many researchers who do this study, so many types of narrative reviews will you have. So if you see the narrative review, if I tell you to do a narrative review on this topic, if 10 people are doing a narrative review, all 10 people will have a different text. All 10 people will have a different set of authors selected for the narrative review. But in systematic review, it is not so. How we select our authors is also done through a systematic way. That is why I say narrative review is subjective. The selection of authors in a narrative review, or what we call review of literature, is subjective. The narrative review is probably, look at the number of authors. How many authors are there? Primarily 10 authors. That's it. That's it. So how many papers did you need to do this narrative review? Barely 10. That's it. But how many authors do you need? How many research papers do you need to do a systematic review? At least 150. At least 150. So you can imagine where narrative review is just a part or a chapter of a dissertation report, or just a part or a chapter of a research paper. Systematic review is the whole paper. So the whole 6,000 words that you write in a research paper is systematic literature review of a particular topic. So that is the essence of systematic literature review versus a narrative review. Okay, let me go to the next thing. Okay, what are the steps in a systematic review? Now let's actually start. What are the steps in systematic literature review? The first step is that I determine the research question. So what is my research question? So here, for the sake of explaining, I have taken up a research question from econometrics. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am studying the impact of FDI. Okay, I'm studying the impact of FDI, foreign direct investment, on the technological development of a country. I repeat, I am studying the impact of FDI, foreign direct investment, on the technological development or technological knowledge of a particular country. I am doing this for a developing country like India, right? This is my research question. I'm repeating, my research question is that I am studying the impact of FDI, okay, on the technological knowledge of a developing country like India. This is my research question. And what am I going to do for this? I'm just going to tell you the steps of that when I go to a systematic literature review. The first thing I have to do is assemble a research team. Mind you, I'm presently working on a meta-analysis paper where there are 5 people, okay? And the stage at which we have reached after 15 days of making the group is still data collection. And what is the data? Data is secondary papers. We are just not getting the topic that we are studying is anti-consumption. I want research papers from the year, say, 1996 onwards. And because what is systematic review? It's a summarization, it's a consolidation, a summary of all the research which has been done in the past. So if there is, from the time the word anti-consumption was coined, even if it was 1948, from there on, I have to collect all papers from 1948 till 2020 and summarize them. That is systematic review. Now, I started collecting papers. So I'm telling you my basic examples because, you know, these are things which are not there on YouTube. These are the things which will not be told to you in any FTP. So experiences will never be told to you. This all theoretical thing. Anyways, I will give you my PPTs also for today. I will give you a sample paper of meta-analysis. I will also pass on to you PDF books of meta-analysis if you want. So that all material I'll be giving to Suhasini ma'am. She'll be passing it on to you. If any of you are further interested into data analysis, you can attend a workshop, and even my data sheets I can give to you if you want to understand it that way. Now, determine a research question. So I've determined a research question, assemble a research team. Now, what will be the problems when you get a research team? You need a research team because you need somewhere around 150 to 200 papers at least. And you have to read them inside out. So you have to very minutely read those papers. Okay. So you make a research team. There has to be a team for meta-analysis where one person, like what we are doing in our team, is that one person is collecting data from 1995 to 2000. Another person is collecting all the papers from year 2000 to 2004. Then there's one person 2004 to 2010, the fourth person 2010 to 2020. This is how we have divided our team. Now, you have to do an exhaustive research. So I have been given papers of 2010 to 2020. So I have to do an exhaustive research. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that I will have to search a paper from a dissertation, a paper from a working paper, a paper from a thesis, a paper which is a published paper, a paper which is unpublished. I will have to take all sorts of paper on anti-consumption and list them together. Okay, so first thing you have to do is assemble a research team. This research team starts searching for data, and I need at least 200 papers. If from 1996 till 2020, I don't get some 200 papers, which means there should not be a meta-analysis, systematic review and meta-analysis technique done on this topic because we don't have enough data. For us, the data is not primary data, going to 500 people, telling them to fill up a questionnaire. No. My data over here is secondary data. So if there is a topic on which no secondary research, no research has been done in the past, I cannot do a systematic review and meta-analysis on it. In anti-consumption paper, we are already having problem. We started it, but the problem is I'm not getting quantitative papers. I am not getting papers where anti-consumption is as a construct. That is a very big problem for me. We are struggling with data. It's been a month. We are struggling with data. And if we don't reach 150 as a team of 5, if we don't get 150 papers, I cannot do research on that topic, anti-consumption. There are other practical problems which come with the team. For example, anti-consumption is a term which has been coined somewhere around 2010. Before that, it was called ethical consumption. This is another problem. This is another problem with my paper. Okay, now let's go to the next step. Now determine if there are any registered or published systematic review on your particular topic. So on your particular topic, you would need a registered or published systematic review. Develop and register a protocol for study. I will come to what is protocol of study. Develop a comprehensive search strategy informed by inclusion and exclusion. So in systematic review, you have to give inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. You have to tell me which research you are going to include and which you are going to exclude. So in those 150 to 200 papers, the next step that you do is you tell me which you're going to include and which you're going to exclude. Okay, select studies for inclusion based on predefined inclusion and exclusion criteria, and extract and analyze data. Once you have extracted data, interpret and synthesize results for publication. So this is where you interpret your data, and finally you update a review as required. Now, let me start with the research question. So I'm going to step number 1 of systematic literature review. This is the model that I generally study. So there's an attitude, norm, control, and it is impacting intention. You will get such models in econometrics also in your particular domain. One of the examples that I've given you is the FDI and how it impacts the technological knowledge, right? Now, you will start phrasing your research questions. So here my research question, one of the research questions is to study the impact of attitude on intention. This is my first research question, and I will try and make a PICO, that is population, intervention, comparison, and outcome for this research question. So when I, in systematic review, when I make a research question, I do a PICO for it, that is population, intervention, comparison, and outcome. Now, what is my population? Now, for the study that I'm telling you about, attitude impacting intention, what is my population? My population are young, conscious consumers of India. What is my intervention? So mind you, this is what I'm studying. I'm studying the impact of attitude on intention. What is my intervention? I am studying the role of religion on the attitude and intention relationship. So what I'm studying is that when attitude impacts intention, what is the role of religion in it? This is my intervention. Okay. So if I give you the example that I've given you in econometrics, so if I say that FDI impacts technological knowledge of a country, I would like to study an intervention. So am I studying it for developing country vis-a-vis undeveloped countries? So the country's development becomes an intervention, right? So what is my study? My study is whether FDI impacts technological knowledge of a country or not. And here the development of the country becomes an intervention. Comparison. Okay, we can compare the technological knowledge or the FDI coming from European countries vis-a-vis coming from US, coming from the Arab countries versus some other countries. So there are comparisons in systematic review. And last is the outcome. Okay, so outcome means that After doing all this research, you always have to write down that what is the managerial implication of this. So the managerial implication or the outcome is very, very crucial. Now, let's come to the next step I explained in systematic review, which is a protocol. A protocol is a predefined series of steps to define well-stated limits. Okay, and this protocol is explained by something called a prisma. Okay, so Prisma is a preferred reporting items for systematic review and meta-analysis. That is what is Prisma. Mind you, all these things, all these concepts, inclusion, exclusion, data extraction, data synthesis, Prisma, PICU, have all come from the medical line, have all come from the medical line. Okay, there's a question. There's a question of going with practical. So if you don't understand the concept, it will not be easy for you to go practical. How do I particularly search for papers on systematic review meta-analysis? I'll come to that, ma'am. I'll actually take you to Google Scholar, and I'll do that for you, Sonal ma'am. So I'll do it practically. Just give me a few minutes to cover the concept. If you don't know the concept, it'll be very difficult for you. So there is a preferred reporting system for systematic review or meta-analysis, which is Prisma. What does a Prisma look like? This is what a Prisma looks like. So this is the first thing that you have to do. Okay. Now look at this. Or do you? Okay, fine. So let me take you, before I do this process, let me take you to Google Scholar. I think that'll be better if I practically tell you how it is done. Okay, so, right, give me a minute. There could be many databases which you could be searching. For example, Web of Science, ProQuest, Google Scholar. You could study any of the databases that you want to do. And the first step is that you start searching papers. So now this is Google Scholar, and I am studying the impact of FDI on technological knowledge. Okay, spell check will be done by Google. So technological knowledge. So this is one of the papers that I've got. Okay, let me open it and show it to you. So these are all the papers. If you see there are so many papers. So there are papers and papers and papers. You have to collect all of them. Sorry. You have to collect all of them. Right. So can you see the paper? Can everybody see the paper? It says knowledge spillovers, absorptive capacity. Okay, let me share. Wait a second. So I'm sharing the.
No, ma'am, we are not seeing that.
I'm sharing. I'm sharing. Just give me a minute. We will be sharing screens very often. This is the paper. This is the paper. Let me. Just a second. Let me zoom it a little. Okay, if you can see it now. Okay, this is one of the papers. One of the papers. Now, what do I want in this paper? Now, what is this paper studying? This paper is studying the impact of FDI on the technological development of a country. Okay, this is, it says it's employing an econometric analysis to investigate the same. Now, when it does this analysis, it will have some numbers. Okay, see, one thing you have to learn in systematic review, you could take all types of papers, but when we come to meta-analysis, I need papers which give me numbers. So I need numbers like this. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, so I need a table. Okay, something like a correlation table. Okay, so this is the summary statistics or correlation table. I would need this for my analysis. Right, so what is a correlation table? For any of you who are PhD scholars and new to research, a correlation table is a table where many factors are getting related to each other. So what you show over here So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, what you see is, for example, OP is number 3. So this 3 is OP. So you get the correlation value between two variables. You pick up this correlation value and you put it into an Excel sheet. But you pick up the correlation value of only one bivariate relationship. Okay. So if it is FDI and technology or FDI and GB, suppose I'm just saying FDI and GB, there are two variables in the table, FDI and GB. So I will pick up the bivariate relationship or the correlationship of only these two variables and make an Excel sheet. Then I'll make a second Excel sheet where I'll pick up R&D of the government and FDI. Then I'll make a third Excel sheet of all the values which are present in R&D of business and FDI. So crisscross, I will make a bivariate table of all these studies. So I hope this is clear that how we search papers. So I went to Google Scholar and I just now what you have to see in Google Scholar. See, let me share the Google Scholar screen. Now, I just showed you Prisma. What do you have to write in Prisma? See, you found some 1,87,000 results. Okay, this is what you have to write in the starting of the Prisma table. 1,87,000 results. So now I'm coming back to my slide. In Google, you found these many. You would find another few on Web of Science. You would find another few on ProQuest, because ProQuest has dissertations also. While collecting these papers, what you have to know is you will not reject, you will not be subjective in selecting papers. So you will not be subjective and say, I will not take papers which are not there in A-grade journals. You will not be subjective and say, I will not take unpublished papers. You will not be subjective towards papers which are dissertation papers, which are working papers. You will take all data from everywhere. You will not be selective about your data. Systematic review is a process where the subjectivity of the researcher goes away. So whatever data I get, where I have a correlation table, I will pick it up for the topic, impact of FDI on economic growth. Okay, is this much understood? Can I go to my Prisma? Any questions on collection of, I can solve them right here. Okay, so that was it. Okay, and just a minute. Yeah, so this was the only question which came to me, which was how do I particularly search for papers on systematic review meta-analysis, right? So I've answered that. Let me see. Okay, now let me share my PPT again. Now this is what is a Prisma, and you're supposed to be giving a Prisma. I'll show you a research paper also where Prisma has been done. But this is what is a Prisma. It's a protocol for doing systematic review, right? So now you had some 1,83 articles found because it was Google search. If you go to ProQuest or if you go to Web of Science or if you go to a Scopus database, you would not find some 1 lakh something, but you would find some, say, 10,000 articles or so on your topic. So the first thing in the Prisma is that I list the total number of articles I found from all databases together. So I will go to Web of Science, I will go to Google Scholar, I will go to Scopus database, I might even go to ProQuest. Suppose there are 4 databases. I will say the total articles found was 6,638 articles altogether from all 3 databases together. Don't worry about duplications, we'll come to that. Out of that, you first screen the title. Okay, so the first thing, let me explain this process theoretically to you, and then I'll go back to paper. I'll go back to Google Scholar again. So now you start screening the papers on the basis of title. So 6,000 articles will be excluded because the title did not match our study, right? So the first type of screening that you do is on the basis of title. let me go to the second step. Let me go to the second step. Um, After removing some 6,000 articles, you're left with 1395 articles, and 198 are removed because they were duplicate. What do you mean by duplicate? See, I told you there's a team working on this. I told you there's a team working on this. So there are three people working. One is working on Web of Science, another is working on Scopus, a third person is working on ProQuest. And it might just be then when the team gets together, there are duplications in your articles. Okay, so if there are duplications in your articles, what are you supposed to be doing? You're supposed to be removing those duplications. So 1395 articles I got on the basis of title screening. From these 1395, 198 have been removed. That is my second step because of duplication. Now come to the third step. I'm left with 1197 articles. Still too many for a systematic review and meta-analysis. Now I start screening the abstract. Now I start screening the, yes.
Ma'am, that one I could not understand this one. 1395 articles included. 6020 articles are excluded, right?
Sir, they are excluded because of title, because the title.
Title, yes.
Yes.
This one, my question is this one, ma'am. The 1395 articles included. So what is that, ma'am?
I'll tell you. It so happens that a few come from the papers, which means 6638 minus 6020. Plus, there are some articles. If you see on the left side, there are some 772 articles which are found from an abstract search from other databases.
Yeah.
So, there are conference articles also, which I start including over here. That is how I get 1395. Okay. And these 772 articles which are found in the abstract searches, these are found from conference articles. So definitely they match my topic. I don't have to screen them again on title. So that is what they are saying. Okay, so what he's saying is primarily from three database, he found somewhere around 6,638 articles. He removed 6,020 on title. From conferences, etc., he got some 772 articles. Total, he got 1395. From 1395, he removed 190. He got 1197. Okay, and from these, he further, screened on the basis of abstract. Okay, and he got some 821. Now, 821 were excluded on the basis of abstract. He was left with a few articles plus. Now, if you see the arrows which are coming from the left side, the additions of 39 articles found in search engines, etc., it shows that this is a continuous process. It is showing that this person is continuously searching and aggregating the articles. So now he has, along with the 415 articles, is a mix of articles which have been grilled on the basis of abstract. Plus, during this time, coming from 6,638 to 415, maybe he found some 39 more articles relevant and he put it in. So we come with 419 articles. 319 articles excluded during full screening. What is full screening? This is the time when I get 415 articles. I get articles from conferences, websites, so on, from my databases. Now is the time I start reading each and every article. So that is exactly what my team is doing right now. We have started reading the articles. Okay, when you read the articles, after full screening means reading the whole article, we exclude 319 articles. Okay, and then we get some 100 articles. From these 100 articles, suppose we subtract some 60 articles because due to redundancy or susceptibility to bias. Now, what is this? You need to know. I had some 100 articles into my basket, but I found that somewhere around 40 articles are only written by Dr. Russell Bell. Now, this is what I call susceptibility to bias. If I was finding the whole universe of articles, my 100 articles should have come from different authors. But what has happened is that 60 have come from different authors, but 40 have come from the same author. This is what I call bias. So you will have to remove a few of those 40 articles. When I'm presenting a data to an editor for a research paper, it cannot look biased. It cannot look as if Dr. Russell Belk was one researcher whom I favored while selecting data for my meta-analysis. All right, so I'm left with 40 articles. Okay, further, out of 40 articles, there was some when I further screened them for statistical data. See, meta-analysis is statistical data. So these 40 articles, when I screened them for statistical data, maybe I found out that 9 articles did not have correlation table. I just showed you a correlation table. I need that correlation table for analysis. I need that. So if the article is good, the article's abstract is okay, the whole article speaks about my topic, but it doesn't have a correlation table, I have to reject it. So out of 40 papers, 9 papers I removed because it did not have the correlation table. And now I'm left with 31 papers, and I will do the statistical analysis or meta-analysis of these 31 papers. Okay, any doubts on this so far? Any doubts still here? Any doubts on PICU or
Ma'am, excuse ma'am.
yes, yes.
Ma'am, as per you means that is the meaning of Prisma analysis means before the short research of any topic, we have to go through that things. Means you have to collect the data,
Yes,
edit
sir.
research articles, and you have to exclude something, include something, and there is a so and so forth. What you told ma'am. Means this is the bound to be do or just for you only for we only this one or for presenting or publishing data also you have to give this data this information ma'am.
I didn't get you, sir. What do you mean to say? Which means only you will.
Yeah. And for mine only or I will publish that things also to the suppose journal for any journal or any PhD thesis or any viva suppose you have to give this one or for mine only you have to analyze this one.
Sir, I didn't get your question. Of course, this is for your analysis only.
Ma'am, whether we need to submit this Prisma table
No.
in the along with the journal, along with our paper,
Yes,
or
you
it is
have to.
for my reference.
No.
Yes, this one my question.
Good. Okay. Now I'm sorry I didn't get the question. Okay, I'll show you how. So I've got a sample paper for you, a research paper for you. So I think that will make concepts a little more clear. I can understand it's a very new topic, and that is why I was going slow initially. Give me a minute. Let me show you a paper. I just opened a sample paper for you people so that you know. Just a second. Yeah, so theory of planned behavior now. Okay. Can you see the paper? The paper says the theory of planned behavior and Aicte. Okay, now this is a systematic review and meta-analysis paper. Let me take you through this paper. So forget the introduction, review, all that you know how to do. That is something which you know. So see, it's actually given a prisma. It's actually shown the prisma in the paper. So it has to be shown. And this is a very practical Prisma. So he says that I went to 5 websites, ProQuest, SciInfo, Medline, Web of Science. He's also named the titles. Okay, so initially when we search on the basis of titles. We don't read abstracts. We don't read the full paper. Right, and further on he has screened. Right, so look at how he has excluded or included. And he's given, and you know, it's not only in the Prisma. Let me tell you how we describe it. You know, there is a methodology where we described that also. Okay, so just let me tell you how you write it theoretically. Now, now read this out. Read this out. This is what he has given a prisma, but he has also theoretically said that he accessed some 10,238 records. Okay, further 5 were identified through screening of reference list. Okay, so 5, he means 5 of the ProQuest, etc., which he's written. And then he goes on to how he extracted data. Okay, and thus he got a total size of 6117. So he's explained that theoretically also. Further, we have to write down the inclusion and exclusion. It's very important to write down the inclusion and exclusion criteria. So please read this paragraph. Please take a minute and read it. It has an application of PICO. It has an application of systematic review. Please read it. Take a minute and read it.
Ma'am,
Yes, yes.
can you show that the article first page, ma'am? The title.
Yeah, sure, sure. Yes, yes, sure. This is it. I'll be sending you all this material also.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm just showing you how you write theoretically. So you write an introduction, you write in the method part, you know, in the method part, you have to do a lot. So just read the method part. Just take 5 minutes to read the method part and tell me if you have any doubts on this. So this is just the first step, by the way, and it has to be done right. So have you read it? If you've read it, please do let me know. Yeah. So just a minute. Now, in Prisma, unlike a normal, now I hope now you understand how different it is from a narrative review, and you can also see how exhaustively the secondary data has been collected. So you have to give the PICOs, you have to give the Prisma, you have to tell the editor how you selected or rejected papers. So the inclusion principles, it's called the selection criteria, that has to be given. All this is given in the research methodology chapter. Okay, so your Prisma, your selection, everything has to be given in the research methodology, chapter number 3. For people who are doing a dissertation, even for them, it has to be given in chapter number 3. Okay. Further, he has said study identification. So he says that he has done a study collection from SciInfo, Scopus. He's given all the this thing. He also says that 2 authors did this together. So it was a team of 2 authors, right? And then we come to data extraction, which is the next step, which of course, if I'll come to later on. Okay. So this is how it is done practically. I will share this paper, definitely. I will share this paper. Don't worry, I'll share this paper. I'll share all PPTs, etc. Everything I'll share. Right. So
Yes, ma'am. This one very good sign means if you included this part in a paper, this is a positive sign, right, ma'am?
sir, this is a whole paper by itself. You don't have
Okay,
to.
okay. No, I got, ma'am. I got, ma'am.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
telling this one, ma'am. Okay, okay.
Yes, yes. So if you, in fact, in dissertation, generally what happens is, if you're doing systematic review in your research paper, all 6,000 words will be systematic review only. So, but when we talk about mixed methods, that is what I suggest to dissertation students, that you should first do a systematic review and then go for your EFA, CFA, etc. I generally tell the students. So let me share the PPT again now. Let us, meanwhile, I'll be switching and showing things practically also. So, okay, where were we? Okay, so now I hope you understand the steps in systematic review. We chose a research problem. We chose a research team. In the paper that you see, the research team was of 2 people. Determine if there are any registered or published systematic reviews on your topic. So he searched it from different databases that you saw. Develop and register a protocol for the study. He did that with Prisma. Develop a search and write down inclusion and exclusion. So he's written that these are the papers that I included and these are the papers I excluded. He's done that. Select studies for include based on the predefined inclusion exclusion criteria. Track and analyze data. This is from where meta-analysis starts. So the first 6 steps are only systematic literature review. You could also write a paper only on SLR. It is not necessary to go to meta-analysis, by the way. So you could plainly write a paper on systematic literature review where you say, okay, these many papers were there and these were the final findings of some 150 papers that I have reviewed. But if you really want to go into meta-analysis or statistical analysis, you will have to do step number 7, 8, 9, where you extract data, interpret results, and then update the review. So that's your contribution. Okay, so let me go to, now this is the Prisma we were doing. Now there's something very important, and that is the selection and the selection criteria by 2 people. How do you get papers? Now, if you see, even when that person was doing Prisma, he was actually, at every point, despite the fact that he had reached the abstract screening, he was still adding papers. Okay, if you see. Now, from where do you add papers? You add papers from conference lists. You could add papers from internet articles. You could go to ResearchGate and find papers. You could get a paper of a student which is not there on the internet, but a dissertation a student is doing. I can get any sort of paper. I'm not biased that the paper should be published or not published. Further, in anti-consumption, what I'm doing is anti-consumption, I'm not getting papers. I'm not getting papers from database. I'm not getting papers from conference proceedings. I'm not getting papers from dissertation also. So what am I doing? If I get one paper, I go to its reference list. I'm repeating. If I get one paper, the few papers that I've gone to, I am going to its reference list and searching all the papers in the reference list. From the reference list, I am getting some good papers which are related to my topic. That is what I'm doing. So reference list, when you're searching a topic, I just showed you a paper. I just showed you a paper of FDI and its impact on technological knowledge. If you go to the reference list, all papers are related. Okay. Also, there are some papers, if you remember in the Prisma over here, out of the 40 articles selected, somewhere around 9 papers were removed because correlation table wasn't there. Okay, the statistical part wasn't there. So I cannot do my meta-analysis, so I removed 9 papers. What you can do is you can contact the authors. You can contact the authors and they could give you the correlation table. So there are many papers which are good papers. They have done a statistical analysis, but they don't have a correlation table. So you can always write to a author about it. The statistical analysis that we're about to start is going to be a bivariate statistical analysis. So at a time, I will be doing a meta-analysis of only one study. So attitude and intention. And all the studies of attitude and intention will get into one Excel sheet, and then I will study it. I will show you my Excel sheet also. Okay, tabulate the characteristics and effect sizes of study. So the crux of the theoretical part was that literature review just summarizes a broad topic qualitatively. Systematic review goes through a protocol. So you have to include exclusion and inclusion principles. Meta-analysis is a part of systematic review, especially from step number 7 that I showed you, where we start extracting data and start statistical analysis. Okay, so this is the difference. I hope now you've understood why meta-analysis. I'm trying to search the power of each of these horses. And mind you, when I'm collecting these horses or when I'm collecting these papers, some horses are big, some are small, some are black, some are brown, some are fat, some are thin. So if I start describing horses, my work is not done. I have to pull out the power 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 from all of these horses and finally say my team is as powerful as say 0.5. The basic statistical analysis that is done for a meta-analysis is these analyses, and I'm starting from the first one right now. So the first thing that you have to do is extract data and go and find an effect size. After that, heterogeneity, then publication bias, then meta-regression. So I'm going to the first step where I'm going to extract data from the papers and start doing an analysis. Okay, now the two softwares that I'll be using is one is the comprehensive meta-analysis. Okay, this is a paid software. You don't need to buy this. There is another called Meta Essentials. Okay, this you can download. It's an Excel sheet. I'll be showing it to you. And if you download this, I think the session from 2 to 4, you will be able to practice better. Now, let me go to extracting data, right? So how do I extract data? Let me show you a real sheet. I'm showing you my data sheets. Let me show you a data sheet. So once you have collected these papers, 3140 papers, what do you do with that I'm showing you? Okay, let me share it. Okay, so this is my data sheet. Okay, this is how I make my data sheet. So for every bivariate relationship over there, we had seen in the paper, if you remember, there were many, in the correlation table, there were many bivariate relationships. Okay, so there was a relationship between government, technology and FDI. There was a relationship between business technology and FDI. Okay, so you will pick up any one relationship at a time. So look at this. At one point of time, I have picked up only PE and BI. So these are my variables. Okay, PE stands for performance expectancy, BI stands for behavioral intention. These were my two variables. And I have grilled some, how many papers? Let me show it to you. So this is my actual data. This paper has been submitted for publication. So I have some 38 studies from where I took the correlation values of which relationship, PE and BI. The next relationship, EE and BI. So these relationships are all coming from the correlation matrix. I'll show it to you. I'll go back and show it to you. Now, this is all the values of EE and BI. Okay, so this is all the values of EE and BI. Okay, another bivariate relationship in the correlation table. And this comes from, again, some 37 papers, right? So 37 papers and the authors are given. So I pick up the correlation value and the sample size. This is the only two inputs that I need for meta-analysis. The only two inputs that I need for meta-analysis. Okay, is this much understood? Any doubt till here in data collection? If no, then I can straight away go to the software. Any doubts still here? From where do you pick this up? Any doubts still here?
Mom,
Yeah.
Mom, here the correlation values are the are considered for our meta-analysis.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes.
So here, I think suppose any one of the paper, if you found n number of variables may be correlated. How we can identify very specifically this particular correlation value or this particular two bivariate variables?
So I just shared a paper. I hope I'm assuming that you all know how to read a correlational value. I hope. Okay, just give me a minute. I'll just go back to the paper. Just let me go back to the paper. Okay, so give me a minute. Just sharing that paper again that I was just showing you. Okay, this is it. There's too many windows open. Now, sir, this is the paper I was explaining to you, if you remember, and from the econometrics domain. And
Ma'am, can you expand the size of the paper?
I'll do that. So give me a minute. Okay. Now, I was at the correlation table. What you have to pick up from here is the correlation table. So this is the correlation table. Give me a minute. I'm just zooming it. So this is my correlation table. Okay. Now this is one paper and this is one correlation value. So just see R&D of the government and FDI. So R&D is number 4 and government is number 6. So R&D number 4 and FDI has a correlation of 0.44. First thing is you should know how to read a correlation table. Okay, you should know what these values mean. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, which you see on the left side is the same which is there on 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top level, right? So if I say what is 4 in over here, what is 4? 4 is R&D government. So you have to see the cross values of R&D government and FDI. So now look at this matrix. It is 4 and 6. Okay, this is the correlation value of which bivariate relationship? Relationship between the variable 4, which is R&D government, and the other variable, which is FDI. So these values you have to pick up from some 38 papers. Only this one value. And
So
make an Excel sheet.
that's only one variable have the relationship between, I think that is FDI and R&D.
Yes.
So those two, those correlation for 38 paper, we must collect it.
Yes, and that is the Excel sheet I showed you. Sheet number
Oh.
1. Now let's go to a second thing. Now let us see what will be my next sheet. My next sheet will be R&D of business number 5 and FDI, which is this value, 0.06. So now what is this value? This is a correlation value between R&D of business and FDI. I will collect this from 38 papers and put it into the Excel sheet. So for every bivariate relationship, I will have a different Excel sheet. Is it understood now? Any doubts on this? Please do let me know.
This step we could able to understand.
Yeah. So, because if you don't know data extraction, now this is the reason, I might find papers, but I might not find papers which have correlation tables. So this is the time when I have to write to the authors and get the correlation tables. Without correlation tables, I really can't do anything. So after collecting this from so many papers, so this is what I get. So if you see this sheet of mine, it has one bivariate, okay, from so many papers, then another bivariate from so many papers, then third bivariate. All these are my bivariate sheets. All these are my bivariate correlation sheets taken from research papers. Okay. So
Mom, this is for the particular country only.
no, sir. No. From all my papers, 40 papers.
40 papers.
100.
40 papers from the different country.
Yes,
FD,
yes, from the universe.
From the universe.
From
Not necessary that must be from one country.
No, not from a particular country. So we collected from the whole universe, published data, unpublished data, dissertation, everything from all the research which has happened till date, which includes Europe, America, any research, sir. There was one of my research where I got some 23 papers. Out of that, 6 were from China. Any country. Right, sir?
Mom, paper from the many country. Okay.
Yeah.
But the variable, suppose FDI means FDI in India only or FDI in whole universe?
Sir, depends on the paper. When you open a paper, it will be talking about FDI of a particular country. You don't have to see that. You get my point? Okay,
Yes.
Let me go back to the paper. Wait. Doesn't matter. These are basic. Let me share the paper again. This is the paper. Okay. Now let me see.
This is the paper.
This is a paper. Let me see. He has taken FDI from where? That doesn't matter to me. That doesn't matter to me. But I'm just seeing, I'll have to go to introduction and read from where he has taken. Okay, so see, he has found out the FDI effect of 10 countries, sir. See.
Okay.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter whether he studies 10 countries, whether he studies one country, whether he studies developed countries, whether he studies non-development, doesn't matter. I just have to pick up my correlation.
Okay, now I understood.
Yes. Okay. There are a few questions coming up. Okay. Share the paper. Okay, ma'am, can we include geography in inclusion, exclusion? Sonal ma'am, ideally we should not. Don't include it in inclusion. It can become an intervention. I'll tell you how. In meta-regression and subgroup analysis, I could make that as an intervention. Okay, don't include as see, you are studying the universe of research. What is my exclusion principle? My exclusion principle is if I don't get the word anti-consumption anywhere, because I was studying anti-consumption. If I don't get the word FDI anywhere, that is my problem. If I'm getting the impact of FDI and technology, whether it comes from any Era Gara Nathu Khera paper, it doesn't matter. I have to pick it up and make my Excel sheet. I hope I've answered the question. Now, let me go to the software for today. Of course, I am assuming you all will join me for the 2 to 4 session also. So let me go to comprehensive meta-analysis and finish calculating the effect size. Just give me a minute. I'm just opening the software.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Please go on.
Yeah, ma'am, I just want to ask one question, ma'am.
Yes.
Like in a particular paper, can we pick more than one correlation value coefficient?
So you can pick up, but you'll have to make a different Excel sheet for it. You can pick up. You can pick up, definitely. So what you can do is, in the paper that I just showed you, okay, you're not picking up only one value, you're picking up many values from there. Do you get my point? Should I show you the paper again?
Oh, I would love that, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
just wait for a minute. Can I know your good name, sir? Sir, can I know your name?
Okay. My name is Okeke Gideon.
Okay, sir. So this is the correlation matrix, sir. Right? So this is the matrix. Okay. Now I already explained that if I come to FDI, okay, and value of FDI, now this value 0.44, what correlation value is it? It is the value of FDI and R&D government. So I picked this up and put it into Excel sheet number 1, my first paper, first correlation value, between which the Excel sheet is for which value? It is for FDI and R&D government. The whole Excel sheet will have values only of FDI and R&D government from 20 papers. Now I open another Excel sheet and I name it FDI and R&D business. Now in
Excuse me,
that,
ma'am.
yes.
Ma'am, I have just a slight doubt. Is there an error in this table that column values 2 is repeated? The column
value?
number?
No, the GDP thing.
Yes, ma'am. GDP, PCP lag and GB, both are number 2.
Sir, they might have divided one variable into 2 parts. So sometimes what happens is that when we are doing a study on religiosity, we divide religiosity into intrinsic religiosity and extrinsic. So that could be possible. Okay. Now.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
Yeah. So answering the previous question, now 0.06 is a value between FDI and R&D business. Okay, 5 number is business. So R&D and FDI, the value is 0.06. Now I make another Excel sheet and I name it FDI and R&D business and put this value into it. Now what have I done? I have made 2 Excel sheets out of this one data. I could make 10 depending on the value. So I could take 7. Now look at this value. Of course, this is the same value. 1 we cannot take. Let me take 3 GB. Sorry, just a second. GB and FDI minus 0.01. This is the value of OP and FDI minus 0.01. I can make another Excel sheet. On that Excel sheet, I will write OP dash FDI, which is the relationship of OP and FDI. And I will write the first correlation value in front of it. I'll do a similar process with somewhere around 60 papers. I might not find, mind you, I might not find all correlation values in all tables. So in this paper, I am finding out FDI and R&D business, FDI and R&D government, FDI and OP. I am finding all values. But maybe the next paper that I open, I only find FDI and R&D business. I don't find the other values. Doesn't matter. I will have more values in one sheet vis-a-vis the other. It is okay. It's okay. No problem at all. I don't have to have 20 values in all sheets. You've seen my sheets. Some sheets have 38 values. Some sheets have 20. Some have 15, depending on how many papers gave me the correlation value. Okay. I hope it is clear now.
Yes, ma'am. Very clear, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So let me now share the screen of comprehensive meta-analysis. Okay, so this is a paid software, but you could take up a trial version of this for 10 days just to work on it. Alternatively, what I'm going to do is I will be explaining the same with a free software, which is actually not a software, it's a macro of Excel called Meta Essentials, right? Thanks to Dr. Neeraj Kaushik. Okay, one more thing. YouTube does not have videos on social sciences and how meta-analysis is done. Dr. Neeraj Kaushik, I'm just putting it in the chat. Give me a minute before because there might just be some people who don't join for the afternoon session. So just let me put it. Give me 2 minutes. Okay, so Dr. Neeraj Kaushik has free videos. Okay, but it's in Hindi. I mean, if all of you understand Hindi, Dr. Neeraj Kaushik has free videos on how to apply correlation and find out meta-analysis values. Okay, so any of you who want to see that, and of course, I think I'm open to giving this video also, depending on Suhasini ma'am. I'm okay if this video is given to participants. I have no problem. Right. So on meta-analysis, what do? We first insert a column for study name. So the first thing I have to do is I have to go to insert. Just give me a minute. Too many CMA windows open. I'll have to close a few.
This is a comprehensive meta-analysis software.
Yes. And you can download the free version. Okay, you can download the free version. Okay, it works for 10 days. I'm just showing you. I will show the same thing on Meta Essentials. Meta Essentials you definitely download because that is free of cost. That is free of cost. Okay, so I insert a column for study names. Okay, so it automatically inserts a column for study names. So here I write all the author's names. So my first paper from which I took a correlation value of say FDI and R&D business. Suppose this meta-analysis for each and every bivariate, I'll have to do a different meta-analysis. So now I'm doing the meta-analysis of FDI and research and development business. Suppose, okay. So I say one value came from Raw, one value came from an author called Gera, one value came from an author called Jar, another came from Yemen. Okay, another came from, I'm just randomly just putting names. Okay, just for
Ma'am, better you can take from your original Excel sheet.
Sir, I can copy that also, but it's a very small exercise. So and you know, I want you to make columns yourself. That is what I'm explaining.
Okay. After that, you have to use your original data.
Yes, I can use
then explain.
Yes, I have sheet where I have my original data already, but I'm starting from the scratch to explain to you how columns are made. Then after doing the author column, you insert and go to column 4 and you go to effect size data. Okay, so what are you trying to find out? I'm finding out the effect size or the power of my horses, remember? So here I get an option of correlation. It will give you many options. For example, there are some econometrics papers where you don't have a correlation table. You have a table of standard deviation and mean. Mind you, you can take up those tables also, right? So there are many types of effect sizes, okay, which can be calculated, right? So there are effect sizes which can have the input of correlation. There are effect sizes which can have the input of standard deviation mean. And there are effect sizes in medical science.
Once again from the beginning, Mom, we can write the syntax.
I'll be explaining to that. I'll be explaining that in the 2 to 4 sessions, sir. It's a whole PPT. I'll be explaining. Should I repeat?
Yes.
Okay, I'll repeat it, but I'll be doing that in the 2 to 4 session also. But I'll tell you, there are 3 types of major effect size. One is called R family effect size. R family effect size is something that we are doing. I wanted to explain it theoretically, but a few participants wanted the statistical analysis to start, so I jumped to the software. So number 1 is the R family effect size. R family effect size takes the input as correlation. So what is the value you extract to measure an R family effect size? You pick up the correlation values from tables from research papers. This is the first type of effect size. Then there is a second type of effect size. What is that? The second type of effect size is called the D family, D for Delhi, D family effect size. In the D family effect size, my input from any research, be it econometrics, medical, marketing, my input is standard deviation and mean. I repeat, my input is standard deviation and mean. Okay. And there is a third type of effect size. There is a third type of effect size, which is called others family, OTHER, others family effect size. Here we take the odds risk ratio, a value called odds risk ratio as the input. Okay, so the first two types of effect size, R family and D family, most of the times we apply this in social sciences, in econometrics, finance, marketing, social sciences. This is what we apply. I'm showing you an example of an R family. I will be doing in the 2 to 4 session an example of the D family also. And I'll be doing an example of risk ratio also, because the third type, which is the others family, in which I take the odd risk ratio, okay, from tables. This is generally done in the medical line. And many a times in meta-analysis, I do have medical students also. So I explain to them how input has to be derived, how you have to extract data in the shape of odds risk ratio and then find an effect size. That might not pertain to you in econometrics. The two types of effect size we'll do is R family and D family. Right now, because the input values that I'm taking is correlation, I am doing the R family meta-analysis. Is it clear? Any doubts on this? Any doubts on this?
No, ma'am. No,
Okay, great, great. So we are practicing, to start with, I'm practicing the R family. So thus, when the software asks me for an input, I say correlation. Okay, and I say from correlation, I go to computed effect size, and the software asks me, what input will you give me? What have you extracted from the research papers? And I tell him I have extracted correlation and sample size. And I say finish. So now what will the software do? It will make an automated column of correlation and sample size. Okay, it will make an automated table of correlation and sample size. Now, what is my correlation? Correlation between the two factors. Here I was taking FDI and I was taking R&D of business, if you remember. These were the bivariate that I am studying right now. So raw gave me a value of FDI and R&D business. It gave me a value of 0.5. In soils paper, the same value of R&D business and FDI was 0.6. So on and so forth. Whichever paper I get, I put their correlation, I put their correlation values of all papers for only one bivariate. Which is that bivariate? FDI and R&D business. Now, I also write the sample size of all these studies. So Raw's paper had a sample of 230. Soil had a sample of say 30. JAR had a sample of 250. I'm randomly putting, you will have to see this from papers and put it down. Okay, these are the two inputs that we give to the software. Effect direction. The software is asking me, you want an effect size in which direction? I say you just take it automatically. So I go to auto and I say, what I mean to say is, sometimes the correlation is negative, sometimes the correlation is positive. All I'm telling to the software is just automatically pick up the negative or positive as given in this this column. That is what I'm saying by auto. Now, the moment I press auto, the software gives me two values. So there is a correlation, standard error, variance, which it will give me. It will also give me a Fisher Z. Now, you have to understand the relevance of Fisher Z. The correlation value is converted to a Fisher Z value by the software and back to correlation. Now, why is this being done is because a correlation value is sample dependent. So correlation value is dependent on the amount of sample. But because systematic review is an unbiased study, unbiased statistical analysis, I should not base my correlation on the basis of number of samples. I have picked up papers which had barely 30 samples, to papers which had 100 samples, to papers which had 500 samples. I was not biased, but correlation value is biased. It varies with samples. It is dependent on samples. So I take up a standard figure called Fisher Z. I convert it to Fisher Z because Fisher Z is a standard.
Hello, ma'am. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Hello,
Yes.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, see, from all this, talking about the sample,
Yeah.
more like a mostly done by primary data. But let's take, for example, if you're dealing with the time series data,
Yes.
let's say the reviews you've made are from papers where time series data were used. So how do you build the sample size? That's what I'm asking. Is it based on the year?
So you will have to share that time series paper with me. If that time series paper that you're talking about does not have a correlation or a standard deviation or a mean, I will not be able to use it for meta-analysis. I will have to do a time series analysis on that. I can't do a meta-analysis.
No, ma'am, yeah. I think, Marcy, let's take, for example, let's say one of the persons you've used, one of the study name, let's take the first person, Raw. Let's say Raw has conducted a study on FDI and economic growth, but he used time series data.
Yes.
Let's say time series data spanning from, let's say, 2000 to 2020.
Doesn't matter at all. What I'm finding is the correlation value. Doesn't matter even if it's used time series. It doesn't matter. So in meta-analysis,
okay, my question now is, in the area of this sample so what do we put? What do we write as a sample size for Raw? What do we put as a sample size for him?
Sir, in a time series paper also, you have a sample size. You must be having a total sample size over a period of time. You put that total sample size.
Okay.
You know, because it's a lot. See, the only difference between time series data and my normal paper is that time series data is a longitudinal study and my is cross-sectional. But the other terms like correlations and sample size, they mean the same in both the papers. So you, in time series, whatever total, in 5 years, the total number of companies that you have studied, pick up that as sample size. Is it clear, sir?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I was explaining that we convert the correlation into Fisher Z. Okay, because Fisher Z is more like a standard number. Okay, statistically, it is more of a unitary method. It's more of a standard value. It gives us, it removes the bias of small sample papers versus big sample papers. So we convert it into Fisher Z and then we go to analyze. So I say run analysis. And that is all I have to do. And in Meta Essentials, I have to do even lesser. So this is what it gives me. So it gives me the yellow line shows the consolidated effect size. Okay, so my consolidated effect size of all these 6 papers taken together is 0.670. Now I will do this exercise for some 37 papers. So if I had picked up my data, I would have done this exercise for 37 papers. Some people could done it on 60 papers, depending on how many correlation values you've got from the papers. Now my consolidated effect size is 0.670. Now what do I mean to say? I mean to say my one horse in the polo team was of a power 0.5, another of 0.6, another of 0.8, another of 0.9, another of 0.2, another of 0.1. What is the consolidated power of my polo team with 6 horses? It is 0.670. That is what is effect size. So what have you done? What have you done? For a bivariate relationship, you have given a magnitude of power for all the past research that has been done for somewhere around 2 decades. You have summarized the work, the statistical work of some papers which have been studied in the past 20 years. That is exactly what you've done. Okay, I hope now you understand what was the relevance of meta-analysis and effect size. Now, what are these lines? These lines are called the forest plot. They are called the forest plot. They just show, they have been plotted, if you see, from 0 to 1, and in between 0 to 1, it's just that their correlation values have been plotted. So see, if the value is 0.5, this is the line for the first study. Then there's a correlation of 0.6, which falls over here. So it's a little towards the right of 0.5, 0.6. It's just that the respective correlations have been plotted into a graph. And this is called a forest plot. Now, what are these horizontal lines? For example, these horizontal lines, they are lines which show precision. They show the upper limit and lower limit. What do I mean by upper limit and lower limit? They say that if the effect size is 0.6, suppose the effect size is 0.6, it's like saying a student got 60% marks in maths. But overall in the whole year, from which to which part did the marks vary? So this student got 60% marks, but this student could get somewhere around, look at from where it starts. It starts from 0.3 and it ends to 0.7. What does it mean? It means that although the student has got 60% marks, his marks may vary from 30% to 70%. Now, my question to you, if there's a student who gets 60% marks once, but his marks are varying from 30% to 70%, is he a reliable student? Is he a student with precision? No. So you should make sure in studies, the studies which have a smaller confidence interval, smaller upper and lower limit, or the smaller horizontal line, are supposed to be more precise studies. So these studies are more precise, the ones with a shorter horizontal line. Because what does this mean? It means that if the study of Yaman says that 0.9 is my correlation value, my effect size is 0.9, it will remain 0.9. So there's very few chances. A shorter horizontal line means it's very few chances that the value will vary left or right from 0.9. So most probably it will be 0.9. It's a very precise study. Vis-a-vis that, the others. Now, you might have a question. Should I exclude this study number 2, which has a higher level? No, you will not. No, you will not. We are not biased. I will present my data as it is. I will not manipulate it. Irrespective, this is just a forest plot. It's just studying the pattern of studies of the past 20 years that I've collected. Now, whether the pattern is good or bad, that is not my problem. Whether one study had a very less precision, which is study number 2 vis-a-vis study number 4, that is not my problem. I have taken secondary data. I cannot manipulate my results. I will further show the same thing to you in Meta Essentials. I hope for the 2 to 4 session, you can just sort of download Meta Essentials. Okay, and let me show you the same thing. Okay, so Meta Essentials is nothing but an Excel sheet. It is simpler than, it is much more simpler than comprehensive meta-analysis. So I'm sharing a screen. So this is Okay. So this is the screen of Meta Essentials. Okay. So what do? The first sheet, it's just like an Excel sheet. So in the first sheet, what do? You type the study names, you type the correlation values of each study, see, and you write the number of subjects, which is the sample size. Even in this sheet, you have to give only this much of input. Forget subgroup and moderator, that is for further analysis, advanced analysis, which we are not going to do. So for calculating the basic effect size, all we need is correlation values and the sample size. So like we enter into an Excel sheet, I think everybody of you know how to input values in Excel sheet. I will take up my 10 to 12 papers and enter their correlation value and number of subjects. The moment I enter it and I go to my second sheet, which is called forest plot, automatically this macro will calculate the effect size. So see, this is the forest plot. The blue dots are the studies, okay, each and every study. And the green dot is the consolidated effect size. Consolidated effect size, the total power of my polo team of some 12 horses, okay, and this is somewhere around 0.79. Automatically the sheet will calculate, and this is a free sheet. This is a free meta-analysis tool. So automatically it will calculate a value 0.79. It will give you a confidence interval. I told you upper limit and lower limit. It will give you a upper limit and a lower limit. It will give you heterogeneity values, which we will come to in the second session. So now this is an automated sheet. Now let me change the input a little. I'm just saying, so you had a effect size of 0.79. Okay, now let me change the input. I don't want this ready-made input. I'm just saying, for example, I change the input to 0.6. Okay, then I change it to 0.5. I'm just taking an example. So I've changed the input. Okay, sample size also, let me do fiddling with it. Just an Excel sheet. So I go to my forest plot. Okay, give me a minute. It'll take a minute to change. Now see the combined effect size. It has changed to 0.69. So as and when I change my input in the Excel sheet, all my values, I just have to go to forest plot and wait for 10 seconds. It will change all the calculations. It will find out a combined effect size. This is the effect size. And this, which is done for 12 studies, can be done for 60 studies, 100 studies, depending on how many values you have got in the past 20 years. I will be sharing. I will be sharing all material. I will be sharing books. I will be sharing the links also. So I'll share it with ma'am, so that for the 2 to 4 session we are ready. Now, what are we going to do in the 2 to 4 session? What are we going to do in the 2 to 4 session? We are going to first go theoretical for somewhere around 15-20 minutes to find out the types of effect size. So I will explain to you what is a D family, what is an R family, what is an others family. I will tell you their application, when to use it. Okay. And then I will go to the further calculations of effect size. Now I have done an effect size only of the R family. I will do with you in CMA the effect size of the D family. If you want, I will also do the effect size of the odds risk ratio. If you don't want, none of you are medical from the medical line, I can skip that. So we will do the effect size. We've already done the effect size of the R family. Now we will do the effect size of the D family. And further, we will come to something called heterogeneity. So I will find out the heterogeneity values in the session from 2 to 4. Any questions till now? Any questions till now? Any questions, please? You can unmute and speak, or else we can. I'll share all the material. I'll share the link of CMA and I'll share the link of Meta Essentials also, so that by 2 you can be ready with it.
Then comprehensive meta-analysis link also, ma'am.
Yes, I'll share that, sir. I'll give it to ma'am. Okay. Right. So I think that's it, ma'am. So Asti, ma'am, I think that's it for the morning session.
Yes, ma'am. We can conclude morning session so that we can start afternoon at 2 o'clock, ma'am. Is it okay, ma'am?
Yes, it's okay.